Hello, family. It's a vocation awareness week. So I thought my talk this week would be a little vocation oriented. I thought I would share a little bit of my vocation story if you've never heard it. It is really long, so you're going to get the Reader's Digest, abridged version of it, because I'm an older vocation. I entered seminary at 30 something. I know I turned 40 in seminary, so I was an older vocation. So again, every vocation story is a little different, but the important things to listen for when you're listening to a vocation story, or where was God moving in this person's life? How was this person allowing God to move in their life? And kind of seeing where you can make those connections as well. So a long story shorter is I was raised Catholic. I had an Irish Catholic mother and a German Lutheran father. And so my father was never Catholic, never became Catholic, but my mother raised us Catholic. Baptism, confirmation, the whole spiel. Now, when I was in school, if you went to, my mom made the deal that when we went to public school, we had to go to CCD. And CCD, when I was a kid, ran through 12th grade. So there was a 9th grade CCD, a 10th grade, an 11th grade, a 12th grade CCD. We had different teachers for each grade. So it was a whole, we don't do that anymore. We kind of stop at 8th grade and then we launch you into youth group. But anyway, so I was raised Catholic and then kind of went off to college and did, the thing that a lot of college students do when they go off to college. I kind of faded away from the church, stopped going to mass, I could say stop believing. Probably there's probably a little spell of atheism in there somewhere, or just agnosticism, kind of not really caring about that part of my life altogether. Then I came out of college and moved home and started looking for my career in teaching. And I also realized during that time that there was something missing in my life, and that maybe I should not go back to church, Catholic church, but re-explore Christianity in general. And so it's kind of had some negative views of the Catholic Church when I was in college, and some things that I experienced when I was in high school kind of affected that. And so wasn't really hip on going back to the Catholic Church, but knew that there might be something else out there in the Protestant world that I could connect with or whatever. And so I started visiting churches. First church I visited was a Lutheran church. That was a big mistake because it looks a lot like the Catholic Church. A lot of the mainstream churches, which are pretty strict on liturgy, look a lot like the Catholic Church, and I kind of got pushed away from that. Ended up in the Mennonite church. Long story. Later video maybe. Ended up at the Mennonite church through some friends who invited me. Became baptized. I was baptized in the Mennonite church. That did not, just so we're Catholically, it did not affect my Catholic baptism at all. Mennonite baptism is more like a believer's baptism or a confirmation than it really is a baptism, like we like to think about it. So I was in the Mennonite church for a good 15 years. Got really involved to the point where I was an elder of the church. I left that church. This is another really long story we're not going to get into today, but I left that church and I joined what's called the Vineyard Church. You're going to have to Google that because I'm not going to. It's another kind of sort of denomination, kind of evangelical church. And so I joined that church for 5 years. It was the end of that 5 years where I got the call to the priesthood. And I'm like, you're like, my God, he's been away from church for 20 years. Lord, how did you get him back into the church? And so at the time I was working at Sight and Sound Theaters. And by the summer, we're talking 2007, 2008, I was in management at Sight and Sound in sales and marketing. And so I worked in group sales. I managed group sales for a while. And so as being a manager in the company, that a particular summer, they were going through a restructuring of the company. And so I had to sit in on those meetings. They were very painful. I'm not a big fan of meetings, especially in the summer when I'm busy with my actual work. And so I came home one day really stressed because work was really busy, and then I had all these meetings I didn't want to be at, and just being a minor manager, I didn't have a lot of voice in what was the things that were changing. And so I was kind of frustrated with that. So I came home from work, and I was living in Lancaster City at the time in an awesome apartment I kind of missed, to be honest. It was really great. And so I was praying. I started praying really loudly, kind of crying out to God, look, God, I'm 37, 38, however old I was. And I'm not loving my job right now. If this is what you want me to do the rest of my life, then you need to tell me. Because if it's not, this is the time to change. I'm still kind of sort of young. But I need to know, I need to know what you want me to do with my life, because I'm super frustrated. Well, that's a bad thing to do, because if you ask God something like that, he's going to give you an answer because he wants you to stop yelling at him because he loves you. And so I heard the word priest, and I was like, well, that is crazy. I haven't been to Catholic church in 20 years, and I know what the word priest means. My mom was Irish Catholic. And so I didn't pay attention to it. I ignored it. I didn't listen to it. But I kept praying about what to do with the rest of my life, and that kept coming up. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to do something about that. So divine providence, and that's where God works in our lives, even when we don't want him to. I live 2 blocks from a Catholic church. So I called the pastor up and I said, look, you don't know me, I don't know you, but we need to talk. And he was like, okay. So we met. I'll never forget. We met at Isaac's Deli. I got an eaglet sandwich, which I love. And we sat there and talked. And he said, I told him a little bit of a longer version of the story I'm telling you, but he said, well, if you want to be a priest, you need to come back to the church. And I was like, yes, that's why we're talking. And so more divine providence. The RCIA program was starting up at that church, and he encouraged me to go. I didn't need to go. I'm already baptized and confirmed. All I really needed to do was make a good confession, and I could, go to mass again. But I've been away for so long, 20 years, not a bad idea. So I started going to the RCIA class. Phenomenal. Learning my faith as an adult was amazing. Being around others who were eager to learn about my faith, the Catholic faith, amazing. And so I did that. I'd finished the course, the process, but I didn't really need to go through any of the steps everyone else did. So by the end of it, I was more like on the team helping rather than a student. But again, made some great relationships. So I make my first confession with the pastor. He was incredibly kind and nice to me because, it was kind of like, here's the 10 Commandments. I don't think I killed anyone, but all those others probably did at some point. And so he was wonderful walking me through confession. When I received my first communion after 20 years, I'm not gonna lie, I cried. So then a couple months after that, pastor called me and said, are you still discerning the priesthood? I said, I think I am. And that's when he connected me with the vocation director at the time, which was Father Lavoie, who sat down with me and gave me the best advice, I think. And I do think most vocation directors give this as the best advice when discerning vocation. First of all, he gave me a book, which kind of, I'm not a big reader, so I wasn't excited about receiving a book. But it was a book on prayer, because he was like, the first thing you need to do is pray, pray, pray. He said, you need to go to Adoration Chapel, you need to go to church, you need to pray the rosary every day, you need to pray, pray, pray. And I was like, okay. So he goes, do that for a few months, we'll meet again and we'll see how things are. So he was like, okay. So I did that. I started reading the book on how to actually pray. Thomas Dubay. It's called Pray by Thomas Dubay. It was a really good book. So I started reading that. I started going to Adoration Chapel, started saying the rosary every day, started going to mass during the week and on Sundays. And so we met back together again, and he said, are you sure you want to do this? I said, I think I do. And so that's it. Here I am today. Crazy, bald-headed priest that used to be Mennonite, leading an amazing parish. It's crazy. When I think about where I was 15 years ago or 20 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be here today, except through the Holy Spirit and following the will of God. Because those are the two, when you're discerning a vocation, those are the two most important things. Just the will of God. Are you doing the will of God? And is the Holy Spirit guiding you and helping you through that process? So I don't want to talk too much longer, but some advertising. This is a great book, To Save 1,000 Souls by Brett Brannon. He's a great priest, and you can read this and it'll kind of inspire you, maybe scare you. I don't know. But most importantly, if you're interested in a vocation, and look, any vocation, like priesthood, brotherhood in a monastery, sister in a convent, like whatever your vocation you're discerning in that particular direction, please come see me. Come see one of the deacons. Come see Father Kashif, Father Dema, whoever you feel comfortable with, to sit down and talk more about, what direction you should take. But again, first step is always pray, pray, pray. Like, take time to this morning's gospel was all about being obedient, listening intently. That's what obedience means, listening intently. So the first step of any vocation, no matter what it is to spend time with Christ and hear what he has in store for you. So that's my encouragement, and I love you all, and have a great week.